So you have your bob, you have your bug out location, you have your bug out vehicle, you may even have a bug out plan. But does your plan include how to bug out when they come to take you away, or how to avoid that? Something even a lot of preppers don't even want to talk about. Welcome to the Set Apart Homestead. This is Travis, and this is a controversial subject even amongst many preppers. And I don't like that word, but without finding a better one, we'll just use it. And that is, what if the powers that be decide that for whatever the circumstances, they need to go round citizens up and put them in quarantine, for their protection? Do you have a plan for that? I know many, or at least have talked to those that are of the prepperish mindset that are, oh, that kind of stuff, that's just conspiracy stuff. It'll never happen. You know, I'm prepping for mostly natural disasters, possible civil unrest, maybe nuclear war, that type of stuff. But, our government's not going to come, pick us up and haul us off somewhere against our will. That's not how it works. Well, I know for a fact that they do train for those types of scenarios. I myself was the recipient of that training from Uncle Sam, and they do train for whether it's a chemical, nuclear, biological, natural, man-made, whatever it is. They train for possible scenarios of where they feel the need to go into cities, urban areas, suburban areas, and round people up so that they can be quarantined, taken care of, and very possibly put into some type of holding area or camp until the time that they feel it's okay to release them. And they train to do that against people's will, by force if necessary. Again, I've gone through it, the training, so I do know that they train for it. So, my question is if the government is training and has plans in place for that type of possible scenario, shouldn't we, as those that try to be prepared, try to build a plan for that also, that same type of scenario of what to do? It's a tough one. Someone shows up, a group of people show up at your house with guns, saying that you got to go whether you like it or not. It's kind of hard to, say no. You can try, but they're trained to take you anyways. We've seen a little bit of that in Hurricane Katrina. They were removing people, some against their will, from their homes. FEMA has a lot of plans in place to set up different types of camps for quarantine purposes. If there was a chemical spill or terrorist attack or something like that, that people would need to be quarantined, decontaminated, and held until the all clear was sound. That type of stuff is real. Believe it or not, for whatever reason it seems to me, and maybe I'm just that much out of the loop, that nowadays it's not talked about much. I know, a decade ago it was talked about quite a bit. There were some documentaries made on it. I was in one of them, about, FEMA camps and government coming in and, quarantining people and things like that. And it's become almost like a taboo subject, even amongst preparedness-minded people. We just don't want to think that that would happen, and it may never happen. So with a lot of other scenarios that we prepare for, they may never happen, but that's not the point of preparedness. So what do you do? Well, the best advice that I can give is to create a situation that you don't need to go into those, quarantined areas, or that you don't need to go with them, because the majority of people are going to willingly go. It's not going to be like you would think, where, you know, hundreds of people are fighting and rioting with you know, soldiers and police and stuff to refuse to go. The majority of people are going to go willingly because they're hungry, they're sick. They may have, depending on the scenario, they may be, you know, ill from chemical or biological or nuclear attack, that sort of thing. So they're going to willingly go. So what you need to do is create a scenario where you don't need to willingly go, that you're taking care of yourself. You have enough food supply, medical supplies, decontamination supplies, if that need to be, that you can take care of yourself. Secondly, you need to live in an area where it would be less likely for them to come and do that. Areas where there's higher population densities are going to be the first places that they would go to. Near military bases, government centers, wealthier areas. Those are the types of areas that they're going to head to first if some plan is enacted to go and quarantine people. So your best bet is to not live in those areas. Doesn't mean that living out like this that they're not going to show up, but we're not going to be the first people they come to. They're going to spend all their time and effort and manpower on getting the more concentrated areas taken care of first. So that's a plan. Have a bug out location. Have it nailed down, whether you own it, maybe it's someone in the family that owns it, that you know for a fact that you can go there. And while I'm not an absolute expert in this, in my own thinking, you want it far enough away from where you currently reside that, you know, there's an actual benefit to going there, meaning that, you know, if you're in a hurricane zone and you have a bug out location for if a hurricane hits, and your bug out location is in the same, you know, danger of the hurricane, then it's kind of pointless to have. So you need to have it far enough away so that if there was any danger affecting where you're currently residing, that going to your bug out location would avoid that. But yet you don't want it so far away that it takes a long time to get there. Remember that in moments of catastrophe and disaster, traveling on highways and stuff could be slowed down greatly. Look at evacuations for hurricanes and wildfires. You know, a 2-hour drive may take a day, day and a half because of traffic. So figure that in. You don't want it so far away that it takes you forever to get there. But having a location to where you can go is definitely something that you need to do. Keeping on top of communication so that you can kind of have a warning. TV, radio is possible, but it's good to have ham radio, shortwave radios, because in a situation where everything's really starting to hit the fan, that's going to be the primary way a lot of people are communicating. There's a lot of people that have those, and they're going to be, you know, telling you what's going on. You don't have to have a license to own a ham radio. You just have to have a license to broadcast on a ham radio. So you can own one and listen to it. And you can also broadcast on it if it's a true emergency situation without a license. But to use it normally, yes, you need a license. They're not hard to get. They're not expensive at all. I have one. It's a simple test to get into your basic level, your entry level radio, and you know, it's not difficult and it's not expensive. But having shortwave ham radios so that you can hear what's going on, so that you can get kind of a warning that, hey, you know, these guys are chattering about guys pulling up with school buses and city buses and loading people up. It gives you kind of a warning system. I've also heard guys talk about, and it is true, that when they go start, and this is going to be more for, I think, if you live in an urban or suburban area. Out in the country, I don't think it's going to help you much. But if you live in the city, they do have a way of marking houses after they've cleared them. You can, if you're observant enough, you can figure out how they're doing that and try to mark your home so that it looks like it's already been cleared. I don't know how effective that is, but it is an idea. The point is, And I know there's going to be some, man, you got your tinfoil hat on today. Well, in my mind, preparedness, I don't prepare for one or two scenarios. I don't prepare for natural disasters. I don't prepare for man-made disasters. I don't prepare for civil unrest. I don't prepare for, wars or nuclear wars. I prepare to survive whatever may come my way. And in doing that, it keeps me prepared for multiple things. And so one of those would include this. I believe it's a real thing. If the government wouldn't spend the time and the money on all levels, because I'm telling you, it's not just federal agencies and military that are doing that type of training. They're training on local areas too. A lot of your local police and fire have also gone through training to do mass evacuations. And, they can sugarcoat it. FEMA is usually the one that kind of heads that up. They can sugarcoat it that it's for the greater good of the community or for your benefit, but in the end, you never know how that scenario is going to finish playing out. So, in my mind, you do what you want to your home, your family, your life. But in my situation, I want to do everything I can to not fall into one of those mass evacuations. I don't think that that's going to be a good place to be, is in their quarantine areas. So I know that if they're training for it, if they have plans in place to enact them, then they must believe that at some point they may have to use them. So I think it's a good idea for us to have our own plans in place as how to prepare for them, how to prepare avoiding them. I think the best way to avoid them is to be gone before they show up. Once they show up, it's not a good deal. You're either going to go with them, or some bad things are going to happen. So the best advice that I can give from my non-professional place is to not be there when they show up, and that's part of bugging out. Leaving the area and having an alternative place to go to. So, well, may not be too many people that are into this and like it. I think talking about this type of stuff, it seems to be more acceptable to talk about preparing for a snowstorm or preparing for a forest fire or something like that. But when talking about preparing for things like this, where we may actually be in a true life or death situation, and the enemy could be our own government, or it could be multiple governments banding together that are against us. I think a lot of people don't want to think about that. It's a little too scary, and it's for a lot of people it sounds a little too extreme. But and if that's who you are and you don't want to hear this, then I guess that's your own business. But like I've said a couple of times already, they plan for it, they train for it, they've spent lots and lots of money on doing those things. So if they're that serious about it, then maybe we should be serious about it too, as those that are striving to be self-sufficient and prepared. I don't have all the advice for you. I can just tell you that, it should be part of your plan. Alright, well, I'm out here today scoping out trees. I enjoy cutting wood, but I'm not an expert on what trees to call out, but I am learning. So I thought I'd take a walk and, just more for a learning experience and to get out of the house. It's actually fairly nice out this morning. So, alright, well, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.